Well, shalom and welcome back. Have I got a subject for you? This is absolutely mind-blowing. And this is taken from volume 5 of the Chovot HaLevavot, Rabbi Avigdor Miller's new translation and commentary. And it is chapter 5. And the chapter 5 is gate 5, because this is essentially commentary based on a very ancient work that was written 1,000 or so years ago, called Duties of the Heart. And it's made up of 10 gates or 10 disciplines that you progressively walk through and learn and begin to apply. And this particular volume 5, is the gate called Shah HaYikud HaMaseh, which is the gate of single-minded devotion to Hashem. And the subject that I wanted to look at, that I thought would be really important, really interesting, and really relevant to most people out there, is the subject that essentially looks at jealousy and arrogance. And some of the things that you find in this is a crazy things that you just go, wow, okay. And it's laid out in clear language, and as you go through and you read it and you learn it, you can see how the Yetzer Hara, how the Evil Inclination works to deceive a person. And normally we don't often think of all the different avenues of attack that the Yetzer Hara chooses on a particular person, because everybody's different, everybody's so complex. And so the avenues that are there for the Yetzer Hara to choose to go down in to trip a person up are tailor-made for that person. And this information I'm going to read comes from the 13th enticement, Torah wisdom. And it talks about how the Yetzer Hara will use your desire to learn Torah as a means to destroy you. So he's not leading you with distractions, worldly distractions and desires of the world. He's going to try and use the Torah and your love and your devotion and your newfound intrigue and interest into the divine wisdom of the creator of the universe. He's going to actually now try and make that be the means of your destruction. How's he going to do that? We're going to learn about that today in this short video. And hopefully whet your appetite, and then you will go out literally and run and go and start to purchase these books, because they're going to help you in your Torah learning, your obedience to Hashem, and your capacity, and it's going to contribute to your happiness. You're just going to be happy, and you're going to have a zest for life again, and you're going to come alive. So again, it's from the 13th enticement, entitled. Called Torah Wisdom, which is using Torah Wisdom so it's using the cure as the poison. It's using the cure as a poison. So, it's so interesting. So, we'll start at page 277. Page 277. It's near the end of this particular gate. And the subheading is that the effects of arrogance. In your arrogance, you will flaunt your knowledge to the public who know nothing at all. You will take pleasure in showing them how you are superior to them and how they are nobodies. And you will glory in your wisdom until you will claim to know things that you don't know. The subheading here is risk of an uninformed opinion. Even if a person is a big lamdan. What's a big lamdan? What's a lamdan? That is somebody who is knowledgeable of rabbinic literature, not necessarily a ben Torah or a chacham, certainly not a chacham, but they're just somebody who's fairly recognized as being very knowledgeable across a lot of the length and breadth of rabbinic writings that are out there. So even if a person is a big lamdan, they are inevitably places in his field of knowledge which he is not aware, which is true. But because of his arrogance, he can resist pretending he knows. He can't resist pretending he knows even those things. Therefore, even if it's a subject that he didn't really investigate thoroughly, he does not lose his confidence but gives an opinion that is based on nothing more than his own pride and his own guess. Too arrogant to learn. You will be too arrogant to learn. And this is directly from the translated from the Chovot HaLevavot. And then back to Rabbi Avigdor Miller's commentary. You will think that you know everything and don't have to study anymore. You won't bother investigating subjects because you assure yourself that you know it already. Subheading is learning becomes poisonous. When you do learn something, you become even more arrogant, so it helps to ruin your character further. You will be indignant when people question you. And Rabbi Avigdor Miller interjects with his commentary. You are continuing to learn, but your learning has now become poisonous, asam hamavet, which is an elixir of death. So it's like drinking a poison. Everything you learn makes you feel, okay, I think that's a typo. Everything you learn makes you feel more superior to others, and so you despise the world which is beneath you. You won't be able to tolerate any question because you are convinced that everything you have said is perfect. Subheading, showing up others. Increasingly, you will regard yourself as a wise man and you will refuse to listen to any arguments against you. You will try to increase your honor by pointing out the ignorance of your fellow man and showing them how their arguments are wrong. The greatest pleasure comes from being able to overcome someone else and show him up in learning. And that sentence is Rabbi Avigdor Miller's commentary there, back into his translation of the Chovot HaLevavot. You will adorn yourself by shaming other people. So shaming other people end up becoming like clothing that you're wearing. And you will eventually be devoid of all the good qualities that the sages taught about Hashem and his Torah. Although Torah should actually make a person better, if a man suffers from the arrogance we have described, whatever he learns becomes harmful to his character. So the more a person learns, the worse off they get. Wow. When people learn Gemara especially, they find examples for everyone of these persuasions of the Yetzer Hara. They'll find examples for everyone of these persuasions of the Yetzer Hara. They are men who reached almost the summit of wisdom in their generation, and then because of flaws in character, they were persuaded by the Yetzer Hara and fell all the way down to the bottom. And this is why I go on about this subject so much, that we should be learning Musar. We should be learning how to rectify and refine our character, our personality. Identify what flaws you have. Identify what outstanding aspects of your character that you have that people constantly compliment you on, and find out how to bring those all in a balanced measure, and learn to overcome these flaws and these traits. Don't just dismiss them as this is who I am. You know, I was born like this, my father was like this, my mother was like this, I had a bad childhood. These excuses are not good enough. And they're not going to stand in the Beit Din of Shemayim and say, well, I had a messy upbringing. Well, your adult life is pretty good now. Why don't you take advantage of that and rectify a few things? Because if you're not doing that, all you're doing is you're becoming a bag of books. You're becoming like a basket full of books, and which really, okay, you can impress people with knowledge here and there. But if anybody begins to look to you as a source of wisdom and comes to learn from you regularly, before long, they are going to want to see your conduct and see how your conduct conforms with what you're teaching. This is why Rabbi Yeshua said that do everything that the scribes and the sages tell you to do. He says everything. Do everything that the Pharisees tell you to do and the scribes tell you to do. He didn't say some things. He said, do everything that they tell you to do. This is what a lot of people don't focus on, that aspect of what he said. And so they just go, oh, we'll ignore these guys because he rebuked them so many times. Well, first of all, to be rebuked, you've got to be worthy to be rebuked. And these men were in positions of authority and had great responsibility. and he saw them of being worthy of a rebuke, meaning that there's a high likelihood and a chance that they're not going to take the rebuke the wrong way, because we're forbidden to actually rebuke somebody if we can see there's a high chance that it's not going to do any good or it's going to make them worse. You're actually forbidden to rebuke somebody or a group of people if you can see that they're not going to listen to you. This is why Yeshua isn't found very much rebuking a lot of the Sadducees, because a lot of them were illegitimate anyway. They were Jordanians, they were Edomites, they were illegitimate. They shouldn't have even been hanging out where they were and doing what they were doing. Okay, so Achitophel, who was one of King David's advisors, was so respected. He was considered consulting. It was considered consulting the Uvim and the Tuvavim. What does that mean? That meant when you went to speak with Achitophel to get advice, it was as though that you were communing with the Kohen Hagadol and his adornments that he would wear on his chest that reflect light and give direct answers from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So it was like consulting with Hashem himself, in other words. He became so involved in jealousy of David, and in the end, he tried getting David put to death by David's own son, Avshalom. Yeravam ben Nevat was a great man. He was praised by Hashem by protesting against Shlomo HaMelech, who married strange wives. But as mentioned above, Yeravam ben Nevat turned out to be a sinner and caused Am Yisrael to sin. The 10 tribes went lost because of him. Doeg Adomi. So this is Doeg. Those of you that are familiar with the story with Shaul, was Shaul's right-hand man in Torah learning, and was a very great personality in the conduct of affairs of the Jewish nation, but his envy of David caused him to topple over. These examples are all true, and similar scenarios happen all the time. There's a man I know who was a Rebbe in a yeshiva. Across a hall there was another class with another Rebbe on the same level, but the other Rebbe was more successful in explaining things to his Talmudim, so the Hanala of the yeshiva gave the other Rebbe more Talmudim than this man got. The first man used to stand by the doorway and see the other man with the room full of Talmudim. When in his room there were empty seats, he became so involved in the emotions of jealousy that he contracted cancer and he died young. Wow. This is Rabbi Avigdor Miller's commentary here. He wasn't rewarded for his jealousy. Had he studied the Chovot HaLevavot, he might have been armed beforehand and prepared to know that he could overcome this Yetzer Hara, and he might have lived to this day. So you've tuned into this video. You could well have tuned into some learning that could directly save your life. It's such a privilege to be able to share this to some people out there. So this is a very practical subject. Even though people think that the Chovot HaLevavot is imagining various kinds of proposals of the Yetzer Hara, he actually didn't tell us enough. There are more stories, and some are worse than the ones we've heard so far. Some are not fit for public discussion, but every form of the Yetzer Hara is constantly being proposed. Therefore, the lesson is, and here's where we try out my Hebrew, Yishmerei lechem pinei efta lavavechem, which I believe, thank you, Tom, for your help on this one, I believe means guard your hearts lest you be deceived. So therefore the lesson is guard your hearts, therefore lest you be deceived, in case you be deceived. So thank you so much for joining me. That's pretty much all I wanted to share in this video. I hope it helps you out. It's an amazing subject because it teaches you how cunning the Yetzer Hara actually really is, and how if you begin to not react and not fall prey and succumb to the most popular way the Yetzer Hara chooses to destroy a person, which is through distraction, it will then use the actual source of your strength to steer you off the path as well. And that's what I wanted to highlight in this video. So be very careful and work on your character, work on your midot, and walk that narrow journey with me. And it's definitely doable. We're always going to make mistakes. We're always going to slip up, but we are to dust ourselves off and get back up and live the abundant life. Until next time, bye for now.